Hi there and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be learning about if statements. If statements allow our programs to make decisions depending on a Boolean. Let's get started with a friend name. Let's say we've got a friend called Rolf, and we want to check whether the user's name is Rolf. So the first thing we have to do is ask the user for their name, and then we're going to start typing our first if statement. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the first keyword, if. The if keyword is followed by a space, and then we put the Boolean. If this Boolean is true, then we will execute some code. So if true, we will execute some code. So we're going to say, hello, friend. Now, of course, true is always true, so this if statement is always going to execute. So what we want to put it here instead of true is a Boolean condition that depends on our variables, one of which is something dynamic that the user types. That way, every time the user runs the program, they can type something different, and this if statement will behave in one way or another. What we're going to put here is if user underscore name equal friend. Now, whenever we run this program, the friend variable will equal to Rolf, and the username variable will equal to whatever the user types. Then we will compare them, and if this evaluates to true, the if statement will run this code here. If it evaluates to false, then the if statement will not run this code. Now, let's talk about the syntax of the if statement. First of all, we have the if keyword, then we have our Boolean, then we have this colon, which is necessary in the if statement at the end of the first line, and then we have the body of the if statement. Now, something very important about if statements is that they have to have spaces in front of each line. Usually we use 4 spaces in Python. That's important because if you want to add another thing inside the if statement, such as print this runs to, this also has 4 spaces in front of it, and therefore Python knows that both of these prints are inside the if statement, and they should run only if this evaluates to true. As soon as you eliminate those spaces and you type something else, this is no longer part of the if statement. It always runs because it's outside the if statement. So to recap, this if statement will run this code inside the body only if this is true, and these lines need to have some spacing so that Python knows that they are both inside the if statement. Then when you take away the spaces, Python knows that the if statement is terminated. Notice that you cannot do this because Python would give you an error. This follows a line that doesn't have spaces in front, so it's not part of the if statement. It's just a line with spaces in front, and Python won't like that. So make sure that all the lines that are inside the if statement have these spaces. As soon as you terminate the spaces, you terminate the if statement. Let's run this just to show you how it works. I'll type in Rolf, and you'll see the 3 things printed out. Hello, friend, this runs to, and this runs anyway. And now if I run it again and I type Bob, you'll see that this runs anyway is printed out. That's this line here. And these 2 lines don't get printed out because the username was not equal to the friend in this case. Now imagine you wanted to do something if the username is equal to the friend, such as print hello friend, and also something if they are not equal to one another, such as hello stranger. You could do something like this. You can do this, but it is a little bit verbose. There's a lot of typing involved, and there's a lot of similarities between these 2 statements. In fact, Python comes in with another keyword, the else keyword, that is precisely for this thing. This if statement is now called a compound if statement, or an if statement with 2 branches, and what happens is if this one is not true, it will jump to the else one. So if the username is not equal to the friend, this will be false, and we will jump here and we will print hello stranger. Let's run this, and I will type in Bob, and you'll see that hello stranger gets printed out. So what's happened here is that Python knows that these 2 statements are related because they come one after another without any other commands in between. What I mean by that is you've got this if statement, then you've got the body, and the next line without this spaces in front is the else. So Python can build a relationship between these two and say they're related. And then what happens is, if this is not true, we jump here. Notice that if you put anything else here, you're going to get problems. Now, Python does not know that this else is related to this if, and therefore it tells you that this is invalid Python code because it doesn't make sense to just have an else statement on its own. Earlier on in the course, we mentioned that we could turn any value into a Boolean by passing it through the bool function. For example, print bool of 5. Here we're giving 5 to the bool function by putting it inside the brackets, and then we're giving that to the print function to show it to the user. So if we run this, you'll see that true gets printed out, because bool of 5 is true. Bool of 0, for example, is false. So why is this important? Well, you can do if 5, then print something like this. What this means is that if you do this, by the way, this will always print out runs, because 5 is true when passed through bool. And behind the scenes, Python is always passing everything here through the bool function to check whether it evaluates to true or false. I just wanted to show you that the thing that you put in the if statement does not have to be a Boolean comparison. It can just be a value. For example, if we ask the user for their name, we can just say if name. Here, what we're doing is if the name evaluates to true, then we will print we know your name. Now this is interesting because if we print the bool of name, you will see that no matter what we type, such as Rolf, it evaluates to true. If we type something else, such as Bob, it evaluates to true. If we type something else, such as nothing, that's when it evaluates to false. So the bool of an empty string, i.e. if we don't type anything, is false. So this is one of these scenarios where putting the variable directly in the if statement can be useful. Simply, if we don't have a value for name, or if the name's value is an empty string, we don't run this. Imagine you've got this code and you have a list of your friends, Rolf, Bob, and Anne, and a list of your family members, Jen and Charlie. Now, we want to ask the user for their name and then print hello friend if they are one of your friends, hello family if they are one of your family members, or I don't know you if they are neither of them. We'll start by doing if user underscore name equal friends. Now here we've got a problem. Equal compares two things directly, and username is always going to be a string. That's what the input function always gives us. But friends is a list. So these two things are never going to be equal to one another just because they are not even the same type of data. So what we want to do is we want to use Python's keyword in. The in keyword checks for whether the username is a value contained within the friends collection. So if this is true, then we will print hello friend. Now, we want to check whether the username is in the family members. So you may be tempted to do something like if username in family. And then, of course, your else statement, where we print I don't know you. You may be tempted to do this, but alas, there is a problem. Let's run this program and I'll type Rolf. And now you can see that we get two things printed out, which is not ideal. We get hello friend, and then I don't know you. Clearly not the case. If we print hello friend, we must know this person. So here's what happened in the code. We have Rolf inside our friends list, but we don't have Rolf inside our family list. Then the username was Rolf, so Rolf in friends is true. So we printed hello friend. Now in an unrelated if statement, we checked whether the username was in family. So Rolf in family is false. So because these two if statements are related to one another, we jumped directly to the else and we printed I don't know you. So really what we want to do is we want to chain all of these if statements so that only one of them ever runs. Of course, Python comes with that too. Just type elif. What this means is if this, else if this, else that. So we will do if Rolf in friends, print hello friend. Otherwise, if the username is in family, print hello family. Otherwise, if neither of those were true, print I don't know you. Now if we run this and we type Rolf, you'll see that hello friend gets printed out and nothing else. Similarly, if we type here something like Smith, you'll see I don't know you. You can put as many elif statements as you want inside one of these chains, so you can have multiple of those if you wanted, and as many as you want. Of course, if they have the same comparison, then that's kind of pointless, but you can put as many of them as you want, and they get evaluated in order. So this one gets evaluated first, then this one, and so on. The first one that runs means that the others don't run. So if the username is in friends, these all get skipped. If the username is not in friends, then we will try this one. And if this is true, then this gets skipped. Finally, if none of them are true, then we run this. By the way, I wanted to say that these 4 spaces in front of the lines have a special name, and that is called indentation. I say that because you'll hear me say this more often, and also you may hear it when you're reading about code. The indentation is the spaces in front of a line that denote that this is inside a block. And in this case, the block in question is the if body. Usually we use 4 spaces for indentation in Python code, but you can use 2 if you want, or indeed any other number of spaces. However, 4 is the normal amount to use, and I would recommend that you use that. Many problems for beginner programmers in Python are caused by indentation. Just take special care when indenting your code and putting spaces in front of it or removing spaces from the front of it, as that can sometimes cause a bit of confusion and can cause some problems. That's everything for this video though. We've learned about if statements. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.